In Colorado's 3rd District, we did have a very close election, but we also had 50,000 Republicans not show up to vote.
So just to be clear, Ms. Boebert, you blame Republican voters for the fact that you nearly lost a safe seat and not your own conduct. Ms. Boebert, you're running an ad right now that says deport them all. Describe in detail how you see mass deportation playing out in the cities and towns of the 4th Congressional District.
First of all, having over 10 million illegal aliens coming into our country in under 4 years, this is unprecedented.
I'll note that you didn't make any attempt to answer the actual question, which is who should be doing this. You introduced articles of impeachment against the president for his handling of the border. That move was blocked by Republican House leadership.
Pardon me, please. Sent to committee. It was not blocked.
It was blocked by sending it to committee, so you didn't get the full House vote that you wanted.
No, I did get a full House vote, and it was sent to committee.
I apologize. This is going to be a long evening if you speak over the facts.
Okay. Say it right.
So a question for everybody up here. A question on this for Mr. Sonnenberg. You have also called for mass deportations, and let's talk about that economic impact.
Absolutely. I would use the police. I would use the National Guard. Those people aren't the ones working. Those people are the ones causing the crime to go up in Denver and the area around. Imagine, if you will.
Do you have any evidence to support that? Because law enforcement has not put that forward. I'm just curious where you're getting that causation. How would that work if the National Guard or the military were to come into Douglas County where you live and start rounding people up?
I think that it is time that we take it very seriously for what it is.
Would you like to answer the question?
I will, because I do think...
Mr. Holtorf, you've been interrupting people constantly. I would ask you to stop. Ms. Flora, could you please answer the question?
Yes.
Bringing an out-of-state National Guardsman or the U.S. military in Douglas County, do you feel like that would work?
And we also, by the way, have to stop the President of the United States from suing border states who are doing their own work.
We're going to move on. The question was about the actual work of rounding people up in Douglas County. But we took a couple tries at that. Ms. Boebert, this session of Congress is on track to be one of the least productive in history in terms of the bills passed. Your Republican House colleague Andy Biggs said, "We have nothing to go out there and campaign on." Another House Republican, Chip Roy, said the Republican majority does not have one material, meaningful, significant accomplishment. And that's what the Republicans are saying. I would give you one more opportunity if you would like to answer his question, which is the number of bills you've prime-sponsored that have been signed by the president.
So my Pueblo Jobs Act has been signed into law.
A number, please.
That is one.
Got it. Ms. Flora, you've called on all parents to pull their children out of public elementary and middle schools. And last week, the Colorado Republican Party told parents to pull their children out of all public schools. If parents were to take your advice seriously and pull all the kids out of public schools, what would America without a public education system look like?
That's a great question.
The situation, Kyle, is I'm very proud of the work that I've been doing on school choice.
Okay. I was hopeful for an answer about what would happen if folks followed your advice and pulled all the kids out of public schools, but we'll leave that for another conversation. You resigned your position as House Minority Leader after your drunk driving arrest surfaced this year. And my question is not about what you did while drunk, which for anybody who missed it was speeding up I-25 at 90 miles per hour so fast a trooper thought that you were trying to race him. Then you reached for your gun during the traffic stop. You asked the trooper to call the State Patrol's lobbyist. Then you asked him to keep the arrest out of the media. My question to you is about what you did while sober. You did not disclose your drunk driving arrest to your Republican colleagues when they were considering you for leader and electing you. What does that tell voters about your judgment?
Well, thank you, Kyle, for that. I mean, I should not have done it.
Was it a mistake not to tell your colleagues when they were considering you for leader, knowing that you had something so big and embarrassing in your recent past?
Yeah,
You told a State House colleague who had lost his son in the Aurora Theater shooting that he needed to let go of his son's murder. You called a legislator of color buckwheat during a floor debate. You suggested that people with disabilities are like people who took the risk of running with the bulls in Pamplona. And you suggested that Ms. Boebert dresses like a prostitute. Do you regret saying any of those things? And why do you talk to people like that?
See, it's that last statement right there. Why do you talk to people like that?
Name one time Trump was racist. Okay, I will. 1973, the Nixon administration sued Trump for refusing to rent to black people. 1980s, Trump's casinos were accused of hiding the black staff when Trump visited. 1989, Trump took out a full-page ad arguing for the death penalty for a group of 5 black men that was Central Park 5, effectively putting a bounty on their heads and plaguing them with a lifetime of death threats. He was sued by the Justice Department for discrimination. 1991, black guys counting my money I hate it. The only kinds of people I want counting my money are short guys that wear yarmulkes every day. I think that the black guy is lazy, and it's probably not his fault because laziness is a trait in blacks. It really is. 1992, Trump's casino was fined $200,000 for transferring black dealers off certain tables to appease racist patrons. 1993, Trump said Native American casinos shouldn't be allowed because they don't look like Indians to me. 2000, Trump ran a series of attack ads against Native American casinos alleging, with no proof, that they were guilty of crimes. 2004, Trump fired a black contestant from The Apprentice for being overeducated. 2010, Trump arguing in favor of segregating Muslims in Lower Manhattan. 2011, birtherism, Trump.
Our investigation into Project 25 began 2 weeks before the meeting with Vote, at a conference for religious nationalists in D.C.
The truth is, Christian nationalism is not a threat to American democracy. Christian nationalism founded American democracy.
Journalists from the Center for Climate Reporting have come posing as potential donors, looking to meet those involved in Project 2025. They're not hard to find. The Heritage Foundation, the group running the project, are here. So is Vote's think tank. We make the acquaintance of Mika Meadowcroft, an author on Project 2025 and a close aide to Vote. He tells us that Vote is running the secretive second phase of Project 2025.
And the second phase, after the book came out, was to break down like actual sort of policy packets and like executive orders and agenda items and things like that. That's been supervised largely.
The first phase of Project 2025 was a 922-page policy book published openly. The second phase is a comprehensive, concrete transition plan for each federal agency. These much more detailed plans are confidential.
Yeah. Because obviously you want as little of it to be FOIA-able, if you're familiar with the FOIA process, as possible. Freedom of Information Act, yeah.
The Freedom of Information Act allows the public to request government communications. But Meadowcroft reveals they plan to avoid these rules.
Yeah, the goal is, familiarize all the transition team people with these plans. Yeah. But you don't actually send them to their work emails because then, right. You could just give the handbooks to everyone. Be like, this is the game plan for the admin. Yeah. But if the press knows that that's what you're doing, then they're going to immediately just say I request all of your emails from Heritage. Okay. You right. Worker.
I see.
So we'll see.
Interesting.
Meadowcroft offers to set up a meeting with his boss, Russ Vote.
You could put me in touch with somebody who looks after his diary or whatever.
Yes, I could put you in touch with his schedule. Yeah.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
Great.
So just tell me when to do that.
We want to meet the man writing the game plan for Trump's second administration. Vote believes that in his first term, Trump's agenda was frustrated by what he calls the deep state. So Vote is planning a radical centralization of government power under the president, firing civil servants and ending the independence of agencies like the FBI and DOJ.
80% of my time is working on the plans of what's necessary to take control of these bureaucracies. And we are working doggedly on that, whether it's destroying their agency's notion of independence. They're independent from the president.
Vote has also been preparing documents based on fringe legal theories, arguing the president has the power to use the military against protesters.
George Floyd obviously was not about race. It was about destabilizing the Trump administration. Right. We put out, for instance, a 50-page paper designed for lawyers to know that the president has, the ability both along the border and elsewhere to maintain law and order with the military, and that's something that it's going to be important for him to remember and his lawyers to affirm. But we've given them the case for that.
With loyalists installed in key government agencies and armed with his playbook, Vote believes a radical Christian nationalist agenda can be realized under a second Trump presidency. For example, on abortion.
So I think the president's actually come up with a strategy that works, so long as you are giving people like me in the government the ability to block funding for Planned Parenthood, block funding for fetal tissue research. But what I've told people is he had the most pro-life record ever. I've never seen him to stand in the way of a pro-life initiative that actually was real, politically and with momentum.
And for Vote, Trump's pick for vice president shows he's serious about pushing this ideological agenda when in power.
The Lincoln Project just released a video that I'm about to show you that theorizes what would happen if Donald Trump is reelected based on statements he's made, the things he claims he wants to do, as well as Project 2025 and the Heritage Foundation saying they know what he wants to do and they have the plans to make it actionable. I think as you watch this, it's very easy to say, this feels like fear-mongering. Some of this stuff seems crazy. That can't be possible. But I want you to ask yourself a question they actually pose at the end of this. I want you to have it in your mind going into it. What 8 years ago did you think was impossible that has since happened? Roe v. Wade being overturned. Top of the list for me. Watch this video and share it with everyone you know.
On January 20th, 2025, Donald Trump is sworn in as the 47th President of the United States. Unfortunately, he keeps his promises. Trump seizes control of a divided government, signing hundreds of executive orders implementing Project 2025. Trump replaces over 50,000 civil servants with hardline MAGA loyalists. The federal oath of office now requires declaring loyalty to the president, not the Constitution. Protected by the Supreme Court's grant of total immunity for official acts, Donald Trump orders the Department of Justice to arrest members of the January 6th Commission, current and former DOJ employees, and political opponents for treason, election interference, and conspiracy. He declares it to be an official act. Trump ends birthright citizenship by executive order and turns millions of American-born citizens into illegal aliens overnight. Mass deportations begin. Hundreds of thousands, including legal U.S. residents and American citizens, are imprisoned in newly built camps. Protests erupt. Trump addresses the nation from the Oval Office, invoking the Insurrection Act and declaring the protesters a danger to American sovereignty. He orders the National Guard to use deadly force to suppress the protests. In the wake of the bloody violence, Trump declares nationwide martial law, awarding himself new powers under the freshly signed American Sovereignty Protection Order, which defines protest of immigration policies as non-protected speech and a threat to national security. Governors in New York, California, Illinois, and elsewhere declare their opposition, promising to refuse compliance in their states. Trump orders their arrests. Trump pardons every January 6th attacker, including those who assaulted the police, and in a White House ceremony issues a new presidential medal honoring them. Many are given jobs in his administration. The Department of Education is renamed the Department of American Values and mandates a nationwide Christian nationalist curriculum for all schools receiving federal aid. Trump, joined by Speaker Mike Johnson and evangelical leaders, announces that the Department of Health and Human Services has reclassified mifepristone, making it illegal to distribute or prescribe, as well as new HHS regulations that make IVF treatments impossible to legally administer. Trump reverses one campaign promise by declaring a national abortion ban by executive order. Challenges to his authority are rejected by the Supreme Court, which has seen new appointments from Trump after it was expanded to 12 justices. He signs an executive order removing abortion records from HIPAA privacy regulations and announces a new federal data sharing program so states can monitor women's periods. Thousands are detained while crossing state lines under suspicion of seeking an abortion. Trump's acting Secretary of Defense, a disgraced ex-general, fires over 400 generals and admirals, leaving the military leaderless. Other Trump appointees purge the ranks of the CIA, FBI, and Department of Justice. By executive order, Trump withdraws the United States from NATO and ends Pentagon cooperation with Ukraine. Russian tanks enter Kyiv. Vladimir Zelensky is killed. It is announced that Trump will run for a third term, claiming he was unfairly cheated in the 2020 election. His Supreme Court ultimately agrees with this interpretation, paving the way for Trump's 2028 re-election. If you hear all this and believe it isn't possible, then ask yourself, what did you believe was impossible just 8 years ago? This isn't a fantasy. It's Trump's plan, and he's counting on you to believe it couldn't happen.